What's up, Flaniverse? Would you believe it if I told you it is already week 11 of the NFL season? We're at Thursday Night Football. We've got the Jets at the Patriots tonight. I think it's kind of a fun slate. A lot of these showdown slates on Thursdays I don't really enjoy, but I actually think this one sort of a fun one. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I've heard a lot of other people suggest that this is going to be a terrible game and a terrible slate, and I'm hopeful. I'm keeping holding out some hope that the Patriots offense is going to put up some points, and we're going to have some fun tonight. But again, that might just be delusion. It's a new week. Come in with hope every week, and then Thursday Night Football usually does disappoint. But going to be doing the usual, going position by position, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. In the end, I will be rerunning the Sims after I make some adjustments here in Run the Sims. We're going to be, while you're coming, please like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season and could use your support. Also, if you have not already signed up for Run the Sims and you want to check it out, we've got a big discount now, 50% off your first payment on any NFL product using promo code Neil. So check that out if you haven't already done so. Yeah, Chad also optimistic. I mean, what could go wrong? The Patriots and Jets. The Patriots actually have a fun offense with Drake May, Trevion Henderson, kind of breathing some life into the offense. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism on the Patriot side. On the Jet side, not so confident that it's going to be a fun one for the Jets, but we can dream. All right, let's start with the quarterbacks. And we'll start with hang on, I'll go here to this one. I'll go to the quarterbacks page, see what we got. So Drake May looks great. He's 12,000 projected for 51% flex ownership, 35% captain ownership, even using those ownership numbers. So 86% total ownership. I got 96% in my lineups, 65% in the flex, 31% at captain. And I'm fine with that. I think Drake May is just a fantastic play. He runs, he passes. Maybe I'll cut back on 96% a bit. It's just a big stand to take on any player. I'm always a little bit hesitant to go all in just because I don't want to get everything else right and then have one player in all my lineups that ruins things. But I think that's probably something that I should get over because he's just a great play. The Sims are telling us, and just the stats back it up with Drake May. Patriots rank 6th in terms of pass rate over expectation on the season. Jets defense has allowed the 8th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game over the last 5 weeks. And I don't even think that tells the full story. I think that this is just a fantastic matchup for the Patriots in general because the Jets traded away Quinnen Williams, who is their best run stuffer, defensive tackle, and also Sauce Gardner, who is widely considered one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I think some people argue he's regressed a bit this year, maybe not quite the same Sauce Gardner we've had in the past, but I still think probably one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Veteran safety Andre Cisco also on injured reserve this week. He was 3rd on the team in tackles, and then they have several other defensive players out tonight. So yeah, it's a rough one for the Jets defense. I think the Patriots should be able to slice them up. Debro agrees. Pat's onslaught tonight. Yeah, I think this is it sets up really well for the Patriots offense against this. I mean, it's a depleted Jets defense already. They traded away some of their players and now also hurt. So tough to argue with wanting to get to a lot of Drake May. And he does run. You can play Drake May without pass catchers. Now, I don't think I'm going to have much Drake May, if any, Drake May naked, in part just because Patriots look great across the board. So, you don't really need to force it. It's easy to get to some of the pass catchers that you really like with Drake May. But if you want to play him naked, he does average 28.3 rushing yards per game so far on the season with 2 rushing touchdowns in 10 games. He's very capable of putting up a big game on the ground. So you don't necessarily need to be stacking Drake May. On the other side, we have Justin Fields is 9,400. And actually, I shouldn't say we have Justin Fields because I don't really know that I'm reading the reports exactly how they're being reported because Albert Breer just said that Justin Fields is expected to start tonight for the Jets. And then he listed some stats about the last time Justin Fields played against the Patriots. I didn't take that as necessarily reporting, like he didn't have any kind of inside information. He's just stating the fact that, yeah, everybody's expecting Justin Fields to start tonight. As far as I can tell, the tweet that people are referencing didn't actually say anything that's like, yeah, the team is telling me, or anything like that. I do. It's still fully my expectation that Justin Fields is going to start, but I do think this is a spot where like maybe we need to pay attention to warm ups. I'm not sure that that report itself necessarily indicated that Justin Fields is going to be starting. I think he's just kind of saying what everybody else is assuming, which is, yeah, Justin Fields expected to start here tonight. Fields, of course, you can play him naked if you want to, and I got to a ton here. 42% flex ownership, 14% captain ownership is the projection. I got to 49% and 20% flex and captain. I think this is a spot where I'm actually going to get away from it because, yeah, Steven says I can't play either Jets quarterback. I have concerns. I have concerns that there's benching risk with Justin Fields, and regardless, like there's just downside risk with Justin Fields. Like I think it's not it is risky because Justin Fields we know is capable of just putting up a huge game. He'll run quite a bit if he plays the full game. But I think it is a tough spot against the Patriots for Justin Fields. And there are other pay up options that I want to play that I'd rather play than Justin Fields. So you add in that there is benching risk with Justin Fields, and I think you can get away from it a bit. Again, that is different than what the Sims are giving me right now, but I think that's how I'm going to play it, is getting away from Justin Fields, and I might even in the Sims give some of the quarterback work to Tyrod Taylor, which is I don't think that's the most likely scenario. I think the likeliest scenario in this game is that Justin Fields starts the game and finishes the game. Even with that being the case, like he's not necessarily somebody that you're going to want in your lineups anyway. There's a good chance that he will be because he again runs quite a bit, and he will be throwing the ball. He'll have be a big part of the offense for the Jets, assuming he plays the full game. But all things considered, there are other players that I like better because the Patriots, a decent defense. Now they have allowed the ninth most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to quarterbacks over the past 5 weeks. So not exactly the stoutest defense recently. Jets are 31st in PROE, pass rate over expectation. With that said, Justin Fields does a lot of his damage on the ground, so I don't necessarily see that as a negative for Justin Fields, because part of the reason they run a lot is because Justin Fields runs a lot. But yeah, on the season, Fields averaging, I want to say 39 rushing yards. Yeah, 39.5 rushing yards per game. He does have 3 rushing touchdowns in 8 games. Certainly could see Justin Fields. You can play him naked because he can score. He can get to 100 yards and a touchdown rushing, and just does all of his damage on the ground. Definitely viable to play naked if you want to play some Fields, but I do think that there is risk there with Fields, particularly if he is going to be chalky like he's projected to be. I would rather take an underweight approach there. I'm curious. I'm just going to look up what RG has the ownership. They have much as 7% captain and 56% flex. So yeah, they have them pretty chalky also. I think I'm going to get away from it somewhat, which I'll take on the risk. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to give some of the passing game work to Tyrod Taylor because I don't want to get away from the pass catchers on the Jets necessarily. But I do think Fields, I'm going to take an underweight stance there. And like I said, you can play him naked anywhere in your lineup. He's capable of 100 yards and a touchdown, not really bringing anybody along with him. I'm going to move on to running backs. As people in chat have noted, Terrell Jennings is active, so we can play some Terrell Jennings. So starting with those are the stars. So Trevion Henderson, we'll start with the Patriots. Trevion Henderson is 10,600, projected for 46% flex ownership and 17% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 47% flex, 7% captain. I might end up getting more after I cut back Fields a bit. But Henderson just looks like a fantastic play. Just looking at his workload the past 2 weeks, has 28 carries and 6 targets on 70% route participation. So really, you use quite a bit in the passing game, also 14 carries per game. Things look pretty good there for Trevion Henderson. It is worth noting that Terrell Jennings was getting a lot of work early in the last game. Here, let me pull that up. Actually, I'll pull up week 10 and split it up by quarter. So in the first quarter of that game, we got 4 carries for Trevion Henderson, just 5 snaps. Terrell Jennings. Trevion Henderson, 11 snaps in the first quarter. Terrell Jennings, 5. But Terrell Jennings had 4 carries to Trevion Henderson's 2 in the first quarter. Ultimately, Terrell Jennings got hurt in the. Did he not get hurt to the fourth quarter? Okay. I was thinking he got hurt earlier than that. Looks like he played the full game. So he was involved early, got hurt at some point, I guess, in the fourth quarter, or maybe just got somewhat hurt and came back. I guess I'm mixed up on what happened here because I thought he was out of the game earlier than this. But regardless, he ended up with a fairly large split of the work. He has had over the past 2 weeks 15 carries to Trevion Henderson's 28, one target on 5% route participation. It is worth noting he's only played 17% of the snaps to Trevion Henderson, playing 79% of the snaps. So although the carries are pretty evenly split between Trevion and Terrell Jennings, the actual the snaps played indicate that it's probably a little bit fluky. I think that Trevion should get more of that work. With that said, some positive coach speak there for Terrell Jennings. Also, let me find the coach speak here. No, that's not it. On what Terrell Jennings has done to earn enough trust to be used at the goal line and at the end of the game. Mike Vrabel, after the last game in the post-game presser, said he's run hard. He's run hard in 5 minutes. He's a physical back. Those guys rotated most of the game, and Trevion Henderson helped us win, and so did Terrell. Trying to get the ball to everybody in the rotation. Offense coordinator Josh McDaniels wanted to go with some inside runs at the end, so he put a little bigger back in there. So I think Terrell Jennings is an interesting play here as well. Like I said, Trevion, I'm going to be probably with the field here. The field getting to 63% seems good. I think he's a great captain option. I think, again, against this depleted Jets defense, they should be able to run all over him. And Trevion Henderson, the main beneficiary. But Terrell Jennings at 3,600 should be the RB2 here. I think he is a fairly strong play also, just based on he got work early in the game and throughout the game last time out. He's pretty inexpensive, and they used him as the goal line back, which is pretty valuable. Now, doesn't have much of a pass catching role, but I think that this could be a game script that favors Terrell Jennings getting more work because they could take a big lead. Debra says he thinks that Dearness Johnson also viable for the potential blowout because he's not going to get much ownership here. I'm curious why he's not showing up here. Let's see. Is he active? Because he's not showing up in the Sims. I guess I ran this before we got inactives. I'll have to run this again. I'll have to refresh before I run it again. But yeah, I don't think that Dearness Johnson, he wasn't on the inactives list. So my assumption is that he is playable. Yeah, he would be playable in a blowout script if you want to play it that way. Terrell Jennings, I think, is the better play, also getting 2% ownership. But yeah, I think totally viable to play some Dearness Johnson, assuming that he is active, which I believe he is. On the other side, Breece Hall is 10,200 projected for 36% flex ownership, 15% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 34% in the flex, 2% at captain. Breece Hall has a really strong workload since Braylon Allen went down. He's the clear lead back for the Jets, and he's explosive. Doesn't even need that many touches to break one off. I'm sort of surprised that I'm not getting to more captain, but I think it's because he's being projected for a lot of captain ownership. But if we just look at, I guess they had a bye in week 9. Let's see. Let me look at recent weeks for the Jets. All right, hang on. Let me find my notes on Breece Hall. I guess I just have notes on the full season. So on the season, 138 carries and 26 targets on 34.2% route participation. Patriots defense has allowed the 15th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to running backs over the past 5 weeks. So totally average defense that Breece Hall is getting here. Better for receiving work. You can see it's a positive matchup for receiving running backs, negative matchup for rushing running backs. But Breece Hall, I think, is very viable in 5-1 onslaughts, 5-1 Patriots onslaughts as the single bring back. Or if you want to play jet stacks, I think there's a lot of ways you can play Breece Hall. He's fairly involved. And even without a ton of touches, can just break off a long run. Probably the most talented player currently on, at least of these skill position players for the Jets who are active. So Breece Hall, yeah, obviously a fairly strong play. Not as big of a priority for me as the spend up Patriots options, just because again, I think they have a much better matchup. But I think Brees Hall, a fairly strong play who I'm probably going to end up. You can see I'm getting underweight here. I'm probably going to end up underweight. I don't know if I'll end up as much underweight as I am right now. And then you also have Isaiah Davis, who I think is a pretty strong option as well if you're trying to pay down. Again, they played in 10 over the past 3 games. Isaiah Davis has had a fairly strong workload, 12 carries, so 4 carries per game, also 3 targets per game on 39% route participation. So pretty good workload. And then also, I think would get blowout run also. So a lot going for Isaiah Davis. Now he's a little bit expensive at 4,200, probably too expensive for his role. But again, that's not that bad. 4 carries and 3 targets per game over the past 3. Not a bad role for Isaiah Davis. And then obviously has awesome contingent upside, much like Terrell Jennings. If anything were to happen to the starter, should get a lot more work. So with Isaiah Davis projected for 6% ownership, I got to 12%, which looks good to me. I'd like to be over the field on Isaiah Davis if he's going to get 6% ownership. Similarly, I want to be overweight to Terrell Jennings at 2%. And then, I think we can work in Dearness Johnson. Let me check in on chat. I want to make sure that Dearness Johnson is available, because I'm not sure why he's not in here usually. Yeah, not on inactives. I was thinking like he wasn't on the practice squad or anything, so I'm fairly certain that he is playable. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, Johnson is active according to DraftKings doesn't really know, but yeah, I don't have any reason to. I don't think he was on the practice squad. Um, what do you think of Tyrod's ownership is going to come in at? I don't think it'll be much. I would guess sub 2% for Tyrod. But Danny says people are saying, I think, Ryan says, I think this stays close. Danny says, be careful of a man with nothing to lose. I think that is describing the Jets. So that's a good note. Yeah, you could say that. Oh, hell yeah. Living Large says, where did you reach out to me? I don't think I saw this. Says, I reached out to you last week on my second place winning in the $3 buy-in, winning $21.50 on FanDuel. You're the man, and thank you. Appreciate it. That's very cool to hear. Raiders Broncos. So who did you have in that game? I'm trying to remember even what was in that game. Raiders Broncos. Was not Brock Bowers. I know Brock Bowers didn't do anything, but congrats. That's awesome to hear. And if you want a Flaniverse hat, I think I went over the rules recently, but you can use the Flaniverse avatar, give the shout out on social media with a screenshot of the avatar to myself or Mathology, and then send me your address, and I'll send you a Flaniverse hat if you're interested in that. Chokehold playing Fields apparently. All right, let's see. I'm catching up real quick. Okay. See, this was my expectation though, also against the Browns. I thought the Jets were going to give up, and then they beat the Browns. So, but obviously Browns are a pretty different team than the Patriots. But I was wrong about that one. I thought that it was going to be Quinshon Judkins running all over them, and that did not happen at all. It's a good note from Steven. Says Patriots have tight end Eric Gregory active, whom they claimed off waivers, but he's not in the player pool. So you think maybe he gets the work over Westover as the tight end too? That's pretty interesting. All right. Now, I think that's it as far as running backs go. So we can move on to, but in conclusion, I like all the running backs. Every running back on this page, I'm going to have a good amount. I think I'll be overweight on both the backups, probably slightly underweight on Brees Hall, just because he's getting over 50% ownership, and maybe about with the field on Trevion. I think Trevion, probably my second favorite captain option, maybe my favorite, Drake May being the other one, and then Stephon Diggs. I think those are the 3 strongest, but I think also probably going to get a fair amount of ownership. We'll move on to wide receivers. I'll try to think about, I know people are going to ask me for other captain plays outside of the chalk if we want to get different. I'll give some thought to that. I think I'll find some good options here, because there are some players that I think are pretty intriguing there. But we will start with the Patriots side at wide receiver, which is the more straightforward side. The Jets, man, it's a mess. But we'll start with the Patriots. Stephon Diggs, 9,800 projected for 38% flex ownership, 10% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 28% flex, 8% captain. Again, I think I'm going to cut back on my fields. I'll get more of Stephon Diggs. I think he looks like a fantastic play here. Again, I think this is just an exploitable matchup for the Patriots across the board. I should maybe fear the Jets as the team with nothing to lose, but I don't know if they do have nothing to lose. I think that they, well, I guess that's kind of your point that they I don't know, they're still trying. They won last week. Um, Stephon Diggs in 10 games has 60 targets, so 6 targets per game on 64% route participation. We can look at his route participation over time, but I think he's been the steadiest Patriot as far as route participation, 72% last week, so even higher than his season average. I think Diggs looks great here. And, starting the top receiver on the team only having 60 targets on the season, like goes to show you how much they do spread the ball around. Let's see, this is the, yeah, six. Um, but I think this is just a really nice matchup for Diggs and the ownership not getting too out of control. So I think he looks like a really strong play. Behind Diggs, Matt Collins, the number 2 receiver here, projected for 18% flex ownership. I mean, they're projecting for 0% captain ownership. Let me see what RG has. RG has Matt Collins at 5% captain ownership. I think he looks like a strong captain play. He might be my favorite of the contrarian, or he's certainly up there of my favorite contrarian captain plays on the slate. You can see I'm getting to a ton with the projection of 18% flex, 0% captain. I'm getting to 47% flex Max Hollins, 14% captain. Looks great. He's just too cheap for his current role and the matchup here with the Jets. Looking at, well, we can just look at last week. We saw Mac Hollins up to 81% route participation with Kayshon Boutte out, was targeted 10 times in that game. Looks great. Seems to have a connection with Drake May. The coaches love him. Yeah, I think Mac Hollins. This seems like too low of ownership. Actually, let me look at the flex ownership here too. Okay, RG has him at 27% flex ownership, 5% captain, so higher in both places. And I think that is probably more accurate, but you never know. There have been times that I've thought the run the Sims ownership looks way off from what I would expect, and then flip over the cards and it's been exactly what they said it was going to be. So hopefully that this is correct and we can just play a ton of Matt Collins. Again, currently I'm getting to 71% here. I think he looks great. Other than Diggs and Hollins, we can play Pop Douglas. We can play Kyle Williams. Williams going to get the ownership. He is 2,000 projected for 21% flex ownership. Using that number, I got to 11% of Kyle Williams. He had just 2 targets last game. He caught one of them for a 72-yard touchdown. So obviously made the most of it. But on the season, targets per route run, Kyle Williams just at 0.1. So really low targets per route run for Kyle Williams and running. I mean, last week he was up to 53% route participation. So that was his highest of the year. So, I mean, it is promising. You see the last 2 weeks, he's had the highest route participation of the season. However, in those 2 games, do I still have this up? I think I have it up somewhere. Yeah, those 2 games, just 3 targets on 50% route participation for Kyle Williams. He can make a splash play as we saw last week. He's got the speed to get behind the defenders and get there for a 70+ yard touchdown as we saw last week. I don't know if we can expect that often. So it's really an ownership dependent play for me. And as of right now, he's getting 21% projected flex ownership. I got to 11%. I want to have double digits, I think, because I do think that he's a strong enough play here and it's a nice matchup. The Patriots should be able to score a lot. So I don't have an issue with the 21% going to Kyle Williams, but as of right now, I'm slightly underweight to the field, and I don't think he's one that I'm going to like force myself to get up to the field necessarily, but I want to have at least double digits because I think he can break off a big play and easily pay off that $2,000 salary. And then Pop Douglas, pretty interesting here. He is 6,800 projected for just 8% flex ownership, none at captain. Using those numbers, I got to 25% flex, 1% at captain for Pop Douglas. Now his role has not been amazing, and we can look at the past. I'm going to pull up the past 5 games because I think this is the most interesting sample to me. Because over the past 5 games, Pop Douglas targeted just 16 times, so just over 3 targets per game on 33% route participation. So you look at those numbers, and he seems way too expensive at 6,200. And especially when you look at the trends, like it's not like he's trending up. He was 42% in week 6 and then has not exceeded 33% since then. So he's not exactly moving in the right direction. But if you look at the game log for Pop Douglas, and actually I can pull that up. All right. 20 points in week 9, 16.1 points in week 6. And again, these games he's running, this is on 30-ish% route participation in week 9. He was at like 42% in week 6. Just capable of breaking off a long one, putting up a big score. So he's the better fantasy producer in terms of like when he's on the field than Kyle Williams is. And there is a possibility that with Austin Hooper out, we see the receivers get more work, and it would make sense for that to go to Pop Douglas. Some positive coach speak this week about Pop Douglas. I don't know that it was enough that I need to go find the coach speak, but there was some talk about. Actually, there was one really positive quote on Pop Douglas. So let me find the one really positive quote on Pop Douglas. It was on the second. Mike Vrabel said, "We got to keep finding Pop Douglas. When he doesn't have the ball, he's blocking and doing all the things we ask him to do to protect our identity. We have to continue to find him on some of these runaways or some of these slot plays that are really good for him." So, you know, giving us the snippet showing his intent to get Pop Douglas the ball more, and then the possibility that with Austin Hooper out, we see Pop Douglas on the field a little bit more. I do think that he is a fine play at 6,200, even though like some, it kind of looks on paper like he's too expensive for his role. Just the role is good enough that they are just targeted him when he is running those routes, even if they are not that frequent. So at low ownership, Pop Douglas does look like a fairly strong play. I think somebody in Discord asked me if I would play Pop at captain. Getting to 1% right now. I wouldn't mind if that, triples. If I get to 3% Pop, I'd be okay with that. I don't want to go too crazy with it, but we just saw him score 20 PPR fantasy points. I think that would have been 23 DraftKings with the 100-yard bonus. So no issue if you want to play Pop at captain. He definitely has that kind of volatility in his game logs where he could break one off and be a player you need at his price tag, if he's in the same kind of scoring range as his more expensive teammates. So those are the Patriots. That's the easy one. The Jets are much more difficult. We've got Isaiah Williams is 1,200 projected for 11% flex ownership. Using that number, I got to 24% in the flex, and a little bit at captain. Adonai Mitchell is 3,000 projected for 5% flex ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 29% in the flex plus 2% at captain. Tyler Johnson, 3,400 projected for 19% flex ownership. Using that, I got to 4% in the flex. Alan Lazard, 2,800, 7% flex, or 7% total ownership. I got to 8% total of Alan Lazard. Aaron Smith, 1,600, 6%. I got to 0.4. John Mechie, 1,000, 11% projected. I got to 0.4. So 6 different receivers for the Jets. And we can just, let me pull up the route share report, so we can just take a look at the routes from last week. Oh, and Garrett Wilson was in last week. Alan Lazard was out. We still have Josh Reynolds out, so we at least have that stability. But yeah, we had Garrett Wilson in. Alan Lazard was out. Adonai Mitchell did not play. That was his first game with the team. They decided that he wasn't ready to play yet. So last week we had, again, vacated 75% from Garrett Wilson, but we had Arian Smith ran 50% of routes. Tyler Johnson ran 50% of routes. Isaiah Williams ran 56% of routes. John Mechie, 6%. And now we add in Alan Lazard and Adonai Mitchell, and we remove Garrett Wilson. So it's a mess trying to figure out what the Jets are going to do. What's the pecking order going to be? So I turn to the Coach Speak Index, and I think ultimately what we want to do is pay close attention to ownership. Like, I think ownership is kind of the biggest thing. We just kind of want to fade ownership to some extent, unless we really have a strong feeling on who is going to be the best play. But using these ownership numbers, I'm going to look at Coach Speak and try to figure out who the best are. I have an opinion on who I like of the wide receivers. which I don't feel that strongly about it. I like the play, but I'll let you decide if you agree with me. But starting with the recent coach speak on receivers, we'll start with November 5th, after they traded for Adonai Mitchell. Head coach Aaron Glenn said, "AD Mitchell is big, fast, physical. He looks like a true X receiver. He can stretch the defense." On the 6th, offense coordinator Tanner Engstrand said, "I really like AD Mitchell's size and his speed and his physical traits. John Mechie is a versatile player that has a lot of different things that you really like. He can get in and out of breaks, and he's got some good speed." On the 7th, head coach Aaron Glenn said, "John Mechie is a really good slot receiver. Not saying he can't play outside, but he's a master when it comes to route concepts in the slot, being able to punch in and out of routes and being able to create separation with his quickness." He said, "AD Mitchell is a true X receiver. He is one that can win the one on one battles, the slants, digs, go balls." On the 10th, Aaron Glenn again said, on newly acquired AD Mitchell being inactive, he said, "We wanted to make sure that he was confident, and we were confident of not putting him in a position to go out there and make a mistake. I think with another week of learning our playbook, he'll be just fine." So those are the quotes we have on the receivers. But then we also have this little nugget from this is Greg put in this little note in the Coach Speak Index Discord. He said, talking about the passing game, Glenn listed off impact receivers in this order: Garrett Wilson, AD Mitchell, John Mechie, Arian Smith. So didn't even bring up the guys who Tyler Johnson, who has been running routes, or Alan Lazard didn't even get mentioned when he's talking about impact receivers. Garrett Wilson, who's out this week, AD Mitchell, John Mechie, Arian Smith. Now, how much we want to read into that, I don't know that we really need to read that much into it. But we've gotten that was along with multiple other days of talking about John Mechie as the slot receiver, AD Mitchell as the X receiver. So we have multiple other quotes about those two, and then they get mentioned as the first two after Garrett Wilson. It could be nothing. I want to be clear about that. This is not, don't take it as gospel that they're going to be running a ton of routes. But it's enough for me, given their ownership, that I am actually going to like. I think I like AD Mitchell the best at $3,000 and 5% projected ownership. I think there's a possibility that he is in his first active game with the team runs a lot of routes, and you can see that's what I'm getting with the Sims. I also think John Mechie, the fact that he kept bringing him up as a slot receiver, really talented in the slot, and then mention him as the third of the impact receivers. I kind of like that play too. Now he is projected for 11% ownership, which is why I'm not getting much. That kind of surprises me after he only ran not that many routes last week. Yeah, RG has him at 5%. I might use a lower ownership number because but he's only 1,000. So we could see John Mechie running a lot from the slot, and then Adonai Mitchell running a lot outside, and then the others mixing in. But it's really unclear what the roles are going to be. And that's sort of, forecasting, maybe even wish casting, because last week the ones running the most routes were Arian Smith and Tyler Johnson and Isaiah Williams. So none of the ones that I am inclined to be overweight on. I'm just kind of forecasting that potentially John Mechie in his second game with the team, maybe this was also just like he didn't really know the playbook well, and now the team is more excited about him a week later after having spent more time with the playbook. So maybe we see John Mechie take a big leap, play a lot of slot receiver, and then maybe we see Adonai Mitchell come in and play a lot outside. But it's probably going to be a big mix of all six of these receivers. It's very possible that none of them are running more than 50% of routes. That is well within the range of outcomes with six receivers active. But you kind of think like they kind of have seen what they have in some of these other receivers, and it hasn't been that great. But again, Al Lazard was inactive in week 10. The week prior, he had run 66% of routes. So it's also possible that Al Lazard just goes back to running the most routes. This is largely an ownership game for me. I think Adonai Mitchell probably not going to get a lot of ownership after being inactive last week, so I like him the best. John Mechie, pretty wide range of outcomes in terms of his projected ownership, but I think he could be the starting slot receiver here. Actually, let me look at one more source to see if to break a tie for John Mechie in terms of ownership. Yeah, the other source has him also sub 5% in terms of projected ownership. So I suspect that that is going to be correct. Let me just look through. So they have, yeah, the guys that have been running the routes that have been with the team, they have as the highest, but they really have low ownership on all of these guys. So honestly, play it however you want. This is quite a mess here with the Jets. But I think again, Adnan Mitchell has been talented. He's been a target earner when he is out there, so that's part of the reason that he is my favorite of this group. Again, there's a lot of ways you can play it. Let's see. That's funny. Aaron says, "Yeah, I mean that was bad." I believe he was the one though in his defense. So I'll give a defense of Adnan Mitchell. I think the ball slipped out of his hand. I don't think that he actually dropped the ball. I think that was I think it was just like the ball slipped out of his hand before he got to the end zone. So I feel bad for Adnan Mitchell if I'm remembering that right. I think because I think it was Amari DiMercato actually like threw the ball before the end zone. Pretty sure it was actually he was just trying to like lift the ball up in one hand, which receivers do that all the time. They like celebrate and they shouldn't prematurely celebrate, but it's a very common thing for receivers to like put the ball up in the air, hold it up with one hand. It just happened to slip out of Adnan Mitchell's hand on what would have been an awesome touchdown. So I think it's forgivable, but uh, that's just me. So again, I think my favorites are Adnan Mitchell and John Mechie. But if you think that they're just going to go back to Alan Lazard, be my guest. If you think they're just going to go back to Arian Smith, be my guest. I'm probably going to try to have a mix of these receivers because they're cheap. They allow you to play the players that I want, which are the spend ups on the Patriots. All right, I think I'm going to move on to tight ends. Aaron says both instances are bad. I know, I agree, but I think it's worse when like your intent is to like throw the ball, which obviously he didn't intend to throw it before the end zone. But I think it's worse to like, as opposed to just like the ball slipping out is more forgivable to me. Okay, tight ends. Mason Taylor is probably the number one target for the Jets. He's 4,000, projected for 30% flex ownership, 1% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 39% in the flex and 8% at captain of Mason Taylor. So far, if we look at the full season numbers for the Jets, let's see. There we go. In terms of targets, it is Garrett Wilson number one. Garrett Wilson is out. A drop down from 55 for Garrett Wilson to 42 for Mason Taylor, and then a big drop down from there. The third most targets for any Jets receiver, 21 for Josh Reynolds. That's just in 5 games, but no other Jet. I mean, Tyler Johnson, 14 targets in 8 games played. Alan Lazard, 11 in 6 games played. Nobody has been earning any targets on the Jets outside of Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor and Breece Hall. So Mason Taylor going to look great at his price tag. He's not that much more expensive than the receivers. He would be, if you include all of the pass catchers, he's the best. He's even better than Adnan Mitchell. Probably going to be the best target earner. In terms of the matchup, it is a basically average matchup over the past 5 weeks, slightly above average matchup for tight ends against the Patriots. Let me see if I can find the Patriots here. Slightly below average matchup for Patriots tight ends. None of this is going to be enough to sway me at all. But Mace Taylor just looks great as the number one target earner on the Jets. You can play some Jeremy Ruckert if you want. He's only 600. Doesn't have much of a role. I guess this is just the past 5 weeks, or 4 games for the Jets. I guess we can just look at that sample because this is relevant as anything. Jeremy Ruckert in those 4 games played, 3 targets. You're basically just hoping for a touchdown. There's a lot of value on the slate that he needs to beat out. So I don't think I really want to play much Jeremy Ruckert, but if he makes it into a couple lineups, I'd be fine with it. Same thing with Andrew Beck. You're just kind of hoping for, you need the $200 and he has 1 catch and that's all you need, which could happen. On the Patriot side, we have Hunter Henry is 5,400, project for 36% flex ownership, 3% captain ownership. I got to 27% flex, 3% captain, so slightly underweight to Hunter Henry. He's about the same price as Mac Hollins. If you wanted to say that you think Hunter Henry is actually a better play than Mac Hollins and last week was a fluke, be my guest. I think that is a reasonable position. Also, I think Hunter Henry looks like a strong, mid price play. Also, I'm getting to a lot more Hollins currently, but on the season, Hunter Henry has had a fairly strong role for the Patriots. 45 targets, second on the team for the season, 71.5% route participation. And we do have Austin Hooper out, so it could actually be maybe Hunter Henry benefits from Austin Hooper being out. If you want to play it that way, I think that is totally fine. I think Henry is a fairly strong play at his price tag. And then beyond that, we have Jack Westover. And then Steven noted that they also signed another tight end who probably isn't going to play because they just signed him this week. But Jack Westover, fullback tight end hybrid, who we're assuming is going to be playing more tight end with Austin Hooper out. He's just 200, projected for 5% flex ownership, 0.1% captain ownership. I got to 8% using those numbers for Jack Westover. Watch some of his highlights. He looked pretty good in college. He was, a big guy, can catch, not much yak ability in the clips that I saw, but had some good hands, made some nice moves. So I think Westover, kind of intriguing. He was targeted once last week. So maybe gets more involved. And if we look at this is snap share, and this is route share. Actually, how many routes did he run? Because he again was targeted once last week. Now I don't have him running any routes, which is interesting for a guy who was targeted. But in terms of snaps last week, Westover 25.4% of snaps. He was at 45.6 the week before. He's been playing some snaps, not targeted much, but he could be more involved with Austin Hooper out this week. Again, he's built like a tight end, has been playing fullback, kind of gadgety. I think he's sort of like a Kyle Juszczyk. I'm not expecting a ton from Jack Westover, but he's 200. If he catches a ball, could be enough, and he's probably more likely to catch a ball than Andrew Beck is. So I think that this is about right. 8% seems totally fine for me with Jack Westover. I'm going to move on to kickers and defenses, and I will see if you have any questions. All right. Matt says that I'm correct. Yeah, AD had just shed a tackle at the 5 as he approached the end zone. Yeah, that's just like, it's dumb, but it's not as dumb as the throwing the ball away before you're sure you cross the goal line. To me, that's a lot dumber. All right. Defenses and kickers. Pats defense is 6,600, massive price tag on the Pats. Kind of get it though if they're facing Justin Fields, who has not thrown a lot of interceptions. It was pointed out to me this week, but he does get sacked quite a bit. It's a big price tag. I am going to be underweight if he gets 24% flex, 2% captain ownership. I got to 17% flex, 3% captain, so a little bit underweight to the field. I think that makes sense. Andy Borregales is 5,000, project for 37% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. I got to 9%. Again, there's a lot of strong value who are cheaper than him on this slate, so I'm cool with being underweight. Jets defense 3,200, project for 22% flex ownership, and 0 at captain. I got to 6% total on the Jets defense, and then finally Nick Folk 4,600, project for 21% ownership. I didn't get to any kickers on the team that is expected to lose. Typically, I don't want to play as much of them. I don't know that I want 0, so I might make some adjustments here, but generally underweight on the kickers and defenses on a slate where a lot of people are going to be excited to play them. I think I'm generally okay with being underweight, maybe not to the extent that I am right now, but I think I'm generally okay with it. All right, I'm going to refresh here. Excuse me. All right, Dearness Johnson is in there now. Just doesn't have any stats associated with him. So if I want to get to some Dearness Johnson, I can. But again, first thing that I'm doing here is I am going to give Tyrod Taylor a bit of Justin Fields' work. I'm just going to give it 10% of the passing work. And I'm going to give him 3% rushing work. and we'll see what that does. What I'm trying to do here, I don't think I'm going to get to any Tyrod Taylor with 10% of the passing market share, 3% of the rushing market share at 9,000, even with no ownership. I don't think that's enough of a workload to get to any Tyrod Taylor. But the goal is to get a bit less of Justin Fields than I was getting because I want to get to more of some other players. Maybe I'll just run it like this for the first time. I think generally, though, let's see. I kind of think the Patriots are going to rout the Jets with their awful defense. So I'm tempted to just give the Patriots more points and just get to more of the Patriots in general. I do kind of like the Jets receivers though, and I'm not getting too much of them. So maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave it as is for now. I think that'll just be enough to get me to more of May and Trevion, and I want to see if anything has changed. I might. I'm thinking about getting just a bit of work to Dearness Johnson. Let's see, because he's currently not projected for anything, so I'm definitely not going to get to any. Maybe I'm going to take away 3% of Drake May's rushing market share and give it to Dearness Johnson. I think that's what I'm going to do. Because I'm going to still get all the Drake May, even if I reduce his numbers a bit. Let's see. And then, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Well, maybe I'll just try to give him 2%. Okay. I think that'll work. We'll see it. We'll see if that gets me to anything. And then I'm going to make sure my settings are up. So I'm going to do number of lineups. No, I'm just going to do 12,500. Biggest sim, top heavy payout structure, because that's the type of contest I'm playing. Diversified portfolio. I think 230 lineups, maybe. Let me check. 233. Come on. There we go. All right. I'm going to run it. I like to massage those numbers. I actually think that this slate, so I've said on some slates that maybe you should take what the Sims are giving you. Like I probably massage it too much. I think that this is one where like you can massage things more because there's just big unknowns on this slate. So I always do it. I think in this one in particular, it's more viable though to like just be like, no, I think this player is going to play more. Make some of those decisions. I'm trying to catch up on chat. All right. You like this running back tight end thing with Westover? 80 Mitchell is smashing. Yeah, I don't know if Westover would play more in a blowout. Maybe. I don't know. I guess probably. But it's better for the backup running backs, I think. Ooh, Fatalist Approach. I played to his backup once last year and he wound up in the game. I mean, the backup, or at least Tyrod Taylor is 9,000. So you really need him to play a lot if you play. I assume. I mean, I guess we'll find out if I get to any with giving him like just a tiny bit of work. Yeah, and I want to be clear. I didn't give anything to Tyrod Taylor because I want to get to Tyrod Taylor. I'm just trying to get to less of Justin Fields while still getting the receivers. Thanks for the reminder, Dan. Yeah, if you have not already done so, please do like the video. Dan also star in a movie that I just watched, A Mother-in-Law's Obsession. Go check it out if you like Lifetime movies. Dan is the doctor in that one. Just watched that this week. Best cheapies, Kyle Williams. I mean, the like objective best is Mason Taylor, probably. Depends on what you define as cheapies. Mid-range, Matt Collins, Hunter Henry both look great. I like Adonai Mitchell. But then the Jets have 6 viable receivers. I think, like, you can kinda make a case for any of them. My preferences are Adonai Mitchell, and then, even cheaper John Mechie, I think, could get more work this week. He might not, though. That might just be me forecasting incorrectly. Davis or Taylor? Um, I'll have more of Taylor, but I'll be more over the field on Davis. Taylor, like, he just projects better, but I like Davis from the backup running back angle. I am drinking water tonight as of right now. Maybe I'll get something later. All right. So what am I at now? Gonna make some more adjustments real quick. Oh, I actually got to some Tyrod. No, I didn't. I didn't get to any Tyrod Taylor. I gave him some usage, but still did not get to any Tyrod Taylor. I did get to less of Justin Fields, still getting to a ton, getting to 46% plus 10% at captain. Drake May, still getting to all the Drake May. A little bit less, actually. I'm at 90% now, 58% at flex, 32% at captain. So slightly less Drake May than I was getting to earlier. Trevion Henderson getting to 48 and 15 at captain. So a lot of Trevion Henderson. Breece Hall, only 2% captain Breece Hall. Wouldn't mind getting more there. 38% in the flex. Fine with that. So yeah, wouldn't mind bumping up Breece Hall just a bit. Isaiah Davis, I'm getting at 15%. Love that. I think I love playing these backup running backs. Terrell Jennings, 12%. Didn't get to any Dearness Johnson when I gave him a little bit of work. Maybe I'll give him a little bit more. Just as Debro said, I think that he's maybe the most likely to get that blowout run. I was kind of hoping that one of these two, I was kind of hoping that Terrell Jennings would be inactive, so it would have to be Dearness Johnson or vice versa. With both of them active, it's less clear who's going to get that blowout run. Or it gives one less out for Terrell Jennings to value, but I still think they're both strong plays. Wide receivers, getting to 31% flex and 7% captain. Diggs, I might boost that. I kind of like Diggs tonight. Hollins, I'm getting to 46 and 15. I like Hollins quite a bit. I might need to cut back to get to some of the others that I like. Getting to 30% Pop Douglas, 22% Isaiah Williams, 29% Adonai Mitchell, 10% Kyle Williams, 4% Tyler Johnson, 6% Alan Lazard, 3% Arian Smith. Not getting any John Mechie. I am going to fix that. Tight ends, I'm getting to 41% Mason Taylor, plus 11 at captain, 22% Hunter Henry, plus 2 at captain, 5% Jack Westover, and a little bit of Ruckert and Beck, 0.4% each. Defenses, 22% of the Patriots, 5% Jets. That looks fine. Kickers, not really still, I'm up to 2% Nick Folk, so I guess I have a tiny bit now. But I have to make some changes here. So let me look at my inputs and rerun. I am actually going to get to a bit less Justin Fields still. So I'm going to bring him down to, what do I want to do here? 18% market share of the rushing. I'm going to give Isaiah Davis. No, yeah, I'm going to give Isaiah Davis 1 more percent and Breece Hall 1 more percent of the rushing work. And then I wasn't getting to any John Mechie. I think I'd like to get to a bit more of John Mechie. Could be at the expense of Isaiah Williams. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I need to have smart adjust on. I'm going to bring Isaiah Williams down to 11%. John Mechie up to, I think I might need to bring him up higher. 6%. Also going to bring down John Mechie's ownership to 5%. Who can I give more ownership to? I'll figure that out. Started getting to a good amount of Adonai Mitchell, which I like. I'm going to click normalize. to go. Okay. I could get to a slightly less of Mason Taylor. I'll leave it for now. On the Patriot side, again, getting to a lot of Drake May. That looks great. Still not getting to any Dearness Johnson. I might want to give him a bit more work. So I'm going to bring Drake May down to 18% market share and bring up Dearness Johnson. Maybe and Terrell Jennings. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to bring Pop Douglas down to a 3% rushing. Bring Dearness Johnson up to 4. Let's see. I think Matt Collins is going to get a bit more ownership, so I'm going to bring him up to 22%. Okay. And I wasn't getting to any of the kickers. I think it's because that's a hefty ownership number on Borregales. I'm going to bring him down to 32. And Nick Folk, I'm going to bring up his projection slightly. All right, is that going to be enough? Do I just run it like this? That'll get me closer to where I want to be, I think. Okay, I'm going to run it. Yeah, Lazard is active. What's up, Arcathelza? Good to see you. All right. Wait, what's going on? Some drama with the contest, maybe? I'm a bit behind Hydro Homies, yes. I'm running out, though. That's funny. I don't think Nick Folk is a great play. I'm not going to get to that much. I want to have a bit, but not a ton. Well, MPH says, anytime a Jet skill position player has a good game, Fields also did, Brees as well. So just playing a one-off may not be the move. I mean, it might not be, but also I think the theory there is that nobody really has a good game, but you are required to play one Jets player. So like 5.6 out of Adonai Mitchell might be what you need. Just he's cheap enough to allow you to get to the Patriots receivers. So like there's no guarantee that any of them have an actual good game. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think DST and kicker will be fairly chalky. That is true. Haven't seen this in a while, but I remember Showdown Slate once where the person essentially punted with a $200 flex player and had relative chalk good plays. This person also didn't chop first. It caught me. You mean they won first? I have not seen that with the just taking a 0 from 200, and maybe I have. Maybe I've seen that. Yeah. But yeah, you can play like a Westover. There are some $200 players that could score something. Yeah, to be clear, I'm not suggesting that the Jets are tanking. I'm suggesting the Jets are bad because they traded away all their best defensive players. All right, let me get rid of the bot. Honest opinion, I just did Henderson a captain with Fields, May, Taylor, Mitchell, Henry. Yeah, that's great. Probably going to be duped, leaving just 300 on the table. That will be a duped lineup, I would imagine. Johnson or Jennings. So Terrell Jennings or Tyler Johnson. I'll probably have more of Jennings. I think no, I think Jennings is a better play. I think yeah, Tyler Johnson could score a touchdown, but Jennings I think is a better overall play, the one that I'll have more of, I think. All right, let's see what I got. So now my top lineup, and again, these are not in order of EV. As you can see here, the second lineup is much higher EV than the first, but that's because I'm using the Shady Portfolio Optimizer. Top lineup is Drake May with Demario Douglas, Hunter Henry, Jack Westover, and Stephon Diggs. Has Brees Hall as a bringback. That one uses all but $200 of the salary cap. Second lineup has the higher EV, has Drake May at captain, again with Brees Hall, Hunter Henry, Jack Westover, Mac Hollins, and Stephon Diggs. So I think the difference there is we swap down from Henry to, no, Henry's in both of them. Hollins is in the second one, but not the first one. Wait, Hollins replaces Pop Douglas. Okay, that's what it is. And that one leaves more salary on the table, has higher EV. Is it because it dupes less? No, it dupes more. Interesting. Just project better, I suppose. Yeah, that makes sense. Third lineup is a Mason Taylor captain with Brees Hall, Drake May, Isaiah Williams, Justin Fields, Trevion Henderson. So that one it's an interesting one. It's a 4-2 Jets lineup with Drake May and Trevion Henderson coming back. A lot of onslaughts from the Pats at the top, but we do have a few Jets onslaughts here also. Looking at my exposures after the adjustments that I made, still not getting to Tyrod Taylor, still getting to about 51% of Justin Fields, getting to 87% Drake May with 22% of it at captain. At running back, getting to 45% Trevion plus 21% at captain, 46% Brees Hall, just 1% Brees Hall at captain. Would like to get more there. Not able to get there just yet. Isaiah Davis, I'm at 17%. Terrell Jennings, 21%. So that looks great. I'm getting to more of the backup running backs, which is, again, a play that I like to make. Diggs, I'm at 31 plus 8. I'd like more Diggs. Mac Hollins, I'm at 37 plus 19. Pop Douglas, 24%. So I'm well over the field there. Adnan Mitchell, I'm at 27.5%, well over the field there. Kyle Williams, 11%, a bit under the field. Isaiah Williams, 13%. Tyler Johnson, 4%. John Mechie, I'm up to 3%. Still wouldn't mind getting more. 7% Alan Lazard, 1% Arian Smith. I think I want more than 1%, but we'll see. Tight end, I'm getting to 39% Mason Taylor plus 8% at captain. 25% Hunter Henry plus 2% at captain. Not currently getting to any Jeremy Ruckert. Getting to 6% Jack Westover, 0.4% Andrew Beck. Defense is 20, 21, and 3 of the Patriots, 5 and little 0.5% of the Jets. Kicker is still not really getting to much. Nick Folk getting to 14%. Andy Borregales. Okay. So what can I get? I think I'm going to cut back slightly on Mac Hollins just because I'm getting to so much and I'd like to spread it out to some of these other receivers. I think that's the easiest thing to do. Like, this is quite a big stand on Mac Hollins. And I think that there are other plays that I'd like to get to that I'm currently not. So I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Yeah. I think I'll give some more target share to Diggs. Also wouldn't mind getting to a bit more Brees Hall. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm actually going to run. Actually, before I run the Sims, I'm going to get these lineups in. Better to be safe than sorry. All right. That didn't work, did it? Let me see. Okay. So let me put these lineups into DraftKings. All right, so I've got some lineups in at the very least. Now I'm going to make some more adjustments. So again, I think I'm going to go back to my inputs, do this one more time. So again, I'm going to take a bit more of Justin Fields' rushing market share and give it to Breece Hall. So I'm going to bring him down to 15% rushing, bring Breece Hall up to 68% rushing. Okay, good. I'm already getting to a fair amount of Isaiah Davis. I think if I get less of Mac Hollins, I'll get to more of these cheaper guys. But let me think about that. Man, I'm still not getting to a ton of John Mechie. I might give him slightly more of the receiving work. Where will I take that from, though? Because I'm not getting an outsized number of any of these other receivers. Somewhat Mason Taylor. I could bring down the Mechie ownership even more. So I'm going to bring him to 4%. Maybe that'll be enough to get more Mechie. Let's see. Going to bring Nick Folk's projection just up to 7 to maybe get a little bit. And then again, Mac Hollins, I'm going to move the projection down to 16% receiving market share. And bring Diggs up to, let's see, 24. I'm tempted to bring that up even more. And then I'm going to bring Pop Douglas down to 1% rushing. And bring Dearness Johnson up to 6%. All right, we're getting close. Oh, I think if I I'm going to bring down Breece Hall's captain ownership slightly to get more there. I'm going to bring him down from 15 to 12% and give some captain ownership to, I'll just give it to Tyler Johnson because I don't really care if I get any Tyler Johnson captain. Okay, we'll try that. Neil, tell the flannelers how to get a free flannelers hat. That's a good reminder while the Sims are running. This is how to get a free flannelers hat. You just have to use the flannelers avatar if you're on DraftKings or FanDuel, where you can use an avatar. On Underdog, you can't use an avatar, so it's not required on Underdog. Then you have to win $1,000 in a DFS or draft game contest, just $1,000. Give a social media shout out to myself or Mathology13 on Twitter, or wherever on social media. If you don't have Twitter, if you're on Blue Sky, or if you're just on Discord, wherever you do have it, give a shout out with that Flaniverse avatar, and then you just have to send me your mail-in address, and I will send you a Flaniverse hat. So pretty easy to win a Flaniverse avatar. Check that out if you're interested. Nice, Sean wearing his hat. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Flaniverse hats. They cost me a lot of money to make. They're pretty nice hats. Let's see. By the way, all Neil doesn't show all of that to the right. Yeah, you can see like how many dupes and stuff. It's just, don't want to, just takes time to do all of that, to show all the dupes and all the other stuff. Who's the right side receiver for May? Let me see. So if we go to, yeah, it is a good matchup for the right side receiver for New England. So you can see that by going to research, wide receiver cornerback matchups. That would be Mac Hollins. We'll be lining up outright. Although, I think that they all move around quite a bit. So I don't want to read too much into it, but that's, I guess, the primary that Fantasy Points has it at. Yeah, I mean, if you leave 300 on the table, you are gonna be duped some, but not necessarily the end of the world. Alright, this is good. Good note from Spelkowski. I mean, scares me with my 80 Mitchell. Spelkowski says John Mechie, Tyler Johnson, Isaiah Williams, and Aaron Smith are warming up with the starting offense. So is Justin Fields. He's starting again. That's a good note. Appreciate that. So if you're playing a lot of 80 Mitchell, that could scare you off it. Maybe he doesn't play as much. We will see. I assume because he's active this game that they are planning on playing him at least some. But that is worth noting. Looking at who is starting. Spellkowski says based on warmups, it looks like Dearness Johnson could be the backup running back tonight. Really? Aaron, I don't have enough hats to give everybody a free one if the Vikings beat the Bears. Mo playing lineup, leaving a ton of salary on the table. All right. I mean, it's really simple. You just win $1,000 DFS or draft game with the Flannel's avatar and give a shout out. It's very straightforward. And then it's just, yeah, you got to send me your address because I can't send you a hat without the address. It's very simple. Very simple. How is the Diggs matchup? I mean, Diggs is going to be all over the field, but let's see. I think he's listed as the slot. He'll run some in the slot. Yeah, he's listed as the slot in terms of schedule adjusted. This is all free, I think. If you go to schedule adjusted points allowed under research at fantasy points, slot receiver matchup is about average for the Patriots. But also, this again doesn't necessarily account for all the trades the Jets made, where it might actually be better than that. Did I just? I see Awonka was banned and their comments were removed. I'm like blanking on. Did I do that? Was that a bot or did somebody else do that? I don't know. Uh, Sean says, haven't all the primetime games won with 47,000 or less lately? Well, it's been a lot of double defense lineups lately, so that could be. Usually, if it's double defense lineups, that probably it's going to be leaving some salary on the table. All right, top lineup leaves 600 on the table. That's May with Brees Hall, Hunter Henry, Jack Westover, Mac Hall, and Stephon Diggs. Second lineup leaves 3,300 on the table with Trevion Henderson captain, and then it's a 1-5 Trevion captain, and then 5 Jets with Adonai Mitchell, Brees Hall, Isaiah Davis, Justin Fields, Mason Taylor. Third lineup, Drake May on slot with the Brees Hall bring back. Let me look at my player exposures. I'm wondering if I should be spooked off some of my Adonai Mitchell exposure if he's not warming up with the starters, and if I should get to more Dearness Johnson. All right, I'm getting to a lot of Drake May, less of Justin Fields now. That looks great. Still not getting Dearness Johnson. I'm going to go back and make a switch to get more Dearness Johnson. I think if he is, I think it's still more likely that it's Terrell Jennings just because he's been good and they'll give him the goal line role. So I don't know that I want to get away from my Terrell Jennings, but it does make me like Dearness Johnson better. I might ditch some of my Adonai Mitchell since he's not warming up with the starters. Get to more John Mechie and others. Generally, this is looking pretty good, though. All right. I've got 9 minutes. I think I have time to do one more quick sim. So I'm going to do that. I am going to bring Adonai Mitchell just down to 11% and John Mechie up to 7. And then let's see. Generally moving in the right direction. Let's see. Aaron Smith up to 7. Yeah. I see. I still want to be overweight to Adonai Mitchell, so I don't want to adjust things too much, but I want to spread things out with those receivers a bit more. On the Patriots side, now I'm going to give a bit more work to Dearness Johnson, I think. So I'm going to take Terrell Jennings down to 23%, bring Dearness Johnson up to 8%, and then what else? I think I'm close to where I want to be. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to get me to Dearness Johnson is what I'm questioning here. Do I need to bring Trevion down? I'm going to bring Trevion down to 48% and bring Dearness up to 10%. And we'll see if that's enough to get to some Dearness Johnson. All right, I think we're close to where we want to be. So I'm going to run those sims again. Who's the guy tonight? I mean, it's Drake May is the guy. If you are looking for lower owned plays, I mean, like Matt Collins, I think is a great play at his price tag and ownership number. Aaron Jones projects really well for Sunday in Minnesota. Yes, he projects for like 14, 15. I think that might even be FanDuel, maybe even more on DraftKings. So yeah, Drake May, Trevion Henderson, Stephon Diggs. Like if I were hand building one lineup, that's where I start. I put one of those three in the captain spot. I think I have all three of them in the lineup, along with either Matt Collins or Hunter Henry. And then I think I still have enough money left over to put in Mason Taylor and one of the cheapest Jets. I think it still could. So Mason Taylor and John Mechie, or I mean, they've been talking about Mechie as a slot receiver, great slot receiver. Yeah, Packers defense against Jameis Winston. I mean, that's one where it's like you could play them in the same lineup with Jameis Winston. I also really like the Texans defense this week against the Titans. To be clear, Mechie, Sean, pretty risky to having 24% Mechie also. But I think you know what you're getting into. Because he just ran 6% of routes last week. I'm hoping that he's going to take a step forward and run more routes this week with all the positive coach speak and the way they've been talking about him, but you never know. I'm nervous that I got rid of too much Adonai Mitchell because I brought down his target share by 2% there, I think, which is enough that it could cut back significantly. And I want to make sure that I'm still over the field. Like I want to have at least double digits. But I just wanted to spread out a bit more to all the other receivers because if he's not warming up with the starters, like that's enough to scare me off slightly. Makes it less likely that he's going to be running over 50% of the routes. Like still can get there because he's a guy that can make big plays. I think he's maybe their most talented of the active receivers, but who knows how much of the playbook he has learned. Yeah, Khalil Herbert is out. Ooh, 100% Hollins captain. All right. I don't hate it. Hollins could be in for a good game here. All right. Let's take a look at my exposures. I've got 4 minutes to get these in. Plenty of time. Top lineup, Drake May with Mac Hollins, Stephon Diggs and Trevion Henderson, bringbacks of Mason Taylor and Isaiah Williams. Second lineup, another Drake May stack. Let me look at my exposures. Yeah, still getting to a lot of May. Enough fields, I think. I'm under the field, so that's all looking good. Trevion's still a lot. Only 4% Breece Hall captain scares me a bit. 17% Isaiah Davis, 11% Terrell Jennings, 4% Dearness Johnson. That's all looking good. Yeah, I'm getting closer to where I'd like to be. This is looking pretty good, and I don't have time to do more, so I need to be. But I still have 13% Adonai Mitchell. Okay, this is beautiful. Nailed it. Nailed what I was trying to do here. Still have the most of Adonai Mitchell, but I evened it out a bit with the other receivers. Still above weight on Pop Douglas, but not a crazy amount. A lot of Mac Hollins, a lot of Mason Taylor, Hunter Henry, 9% Jack Westover. Don't have any Jeremy Ruckert, so that could bite me. Defense, 23. Yeah, this is perfect. No notes. This is, I think, the closest I've gotten to like exactly what I would like my lineups to look like. So I'm just going to get these in. Download 233. And we'll put these in to the spreadsheet. There you go. So in the end, Mac Hollins got to 45% flex, 13% captain, way over the field there. Pop Douglas, I'm more than double the field with 19% total. A lot of digs, 16% at captain there, 38% in the flex. So even with the flex ownership, more at captain. Bit under on Kyle Williams, with the field on Isaiah Williams. Bit actually significantly under on Tyler Johnson, so that could bite me. Over on Adonai Mitchell. Actually under relative to this projected ownership, over compared to other places on John Mechie. Let me check if we have any questions before lock. Yeah, no questions. Yeah, Sean says anytime he goes 100% on a player, they get hurt in the first quarter. Yeah, I mean that is DFS in a nutshell. Want to remind you, if you are not already in the Flaniverse Discord, it is free to join. There's a link in the description of the YouTube video. So if you are interested in checking out a new Discord channel, check out the Flaniverse. It's fun in there. Yeah, happy belated Veterans Day. Good luck to everybody tonight. Hopefully we can win some money. Please let me know if you do, even if you don't want a hat. I always love to see that people have one. If you think any advice that I gave helped you out, it's always awesome to hear of people's success. One of the great joys of doing content is hearing that people have won money, have had success, and that maybe I've helped in some way. So please let me know. But I'm going to get out of here. Good luck tonight, everybody. Let's win some money. I'll see you on Sunday.